Hello, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Tracy Borreson, and we're going to be talking about the future of marketing. And is the future of marketing fractional? Is it about full-time roles? Is it about part-time roles? And we're going to have a little talk about marketing in general as well. Tracy, before we dig in, where can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Please find me on LinkedIn and connect. I would love it.
And you are very active on LinkedIn, aren't you?
I'm super active on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So Tracy, what do you mean by what does this term fractional seems to have come out in the last 12 months? What do we mean by a fractional CMO?
Well, first of all, marketers love their jargon. So this is why we're talking about fractional. And it's just quite honestly, it's a word to me that means a resource that you have when you need it. So in the big world of business, it has been very common for the last 40 years, 60 years, to try and construct full-time roles for people. People want to work full-time, they want to make a full-time wage, and so we have tried to construct full-time roles. I have been in the process of trying to create a full-time role, knowing that what we actually needed someone to do was not going to take them 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So what else can we give them to do?
You can
So we
make
have
agents on your PC or something, can you?
Right. and so this has just been like the general practice. And I mean, I still don't know that there are a lot of people asking questions about it, but COVID created an environment where people started to learn that they could work from home,
Yep.
that they could actually maybe work like 6 hours a day instead of 8 hours a day and get the same amount of work done. And so people have been starting to talk about like what does it look like to not work a 40-hour work week? And there's been lots of studies all over the world about like 4-day work weeks and whether or not there's people like if you can just work in the morning and do really productive stuff and then not work in the afternoons. And there's people testing these things all over the world all the time. And so to me, fractional means not working 40 hours a week, because as far as I'm concerned, the concept is just bunk at this point in our business evolution. There's very few people who need to work 40 hours a week.
Because you would see yourself as you see yourself as a fractional CMO, don't you?
I do. And one of the things that is interesting when you look at like what is a CMO supposed to do? Okay? A CMO is supposed to be a overarching strategic resource, people manager, right? There's specific things that a CMO is supposed to do. And there is a specific amount of time that those things take. Now, if you have a company where a CMO is over a team of 150 people, then yeah, maybe you need a full-time CMO. But what is missing, especially in the fractional CMO arena, is that most businesses can benefit from strategic marketing insight. But if you're a small business, a startup, things like that, you don't have $150,000 a year to pay a full-time CMO. And I would also say, don't do that. Please don't do that. It's not a good spend for your money. But if we look at this from a fractional resourcing perspective, and we look at the type of people who are willing to go in and do these jobs from a fractional perspective, then you get to have that strategic marketing oversight. But it doesn't take 40 hours a week for even a $40 million business to have the marketing strategic oversight it needs. It needs 2 hours a week, 4 hours a week. With somebody who knows precisely what they're there to do and how to execute on that thing. And so I think a lot of this has to do with clarity in the rules.
And I think that from what you're saying is that in terms of, because one of the things that we want to talk about is how do you become a fractional CMO,
right.
and to give one of the answers to that is to have a network. Because what I understand is that what you do is you say, I know a great graphic designer, I know a great person who does this. Is that what you built up in effect?
Yes, and not even just that, would I say, but I know lots of graphic designers.
Right.
So
okay.
If I'm working with a client, I can match an appropriately skilled or Like graphic designers tend to have their own kind of vibe and things in the things that they design. So you can match those type of things to a company. You can, like, for example, also in marketing, there's lots of marketing service providers, right? People who sell email automation software, people who sell copywriting, people who sell these things. And quite often, those service providers are quite convinced that everybody needs their services, that everybody needs email, that everybody needs a podcast, that everybody needs fill in the blank. What a strategic marketing resource, again, even part-time, can do for you is help you identify, do you need that? Right? What would the benefit of having an email program do for your organization? What's the goal of the marketing program? Where are the emails coming from? How are we connecting it? And asking those strategic questions that somebody who just wants you to have an email list would be like, hey, we can buy this email list from over here and you can send out this pre-configured 7-point email program. And you can do that. But whether or not it will have any impact on your business, I mean, from my perspective, highly unlikely because it doesn't have strategy.
I remember working in an organization where what used to happen was that the leader used to fly somewhere, and in those days it was always a he. Pulled out the in-flight magazine and went through the in-flight magazine, and then would come back with an idea from the in-flight magazine. And it was like, and it's like, what, where does this come from? Where's the strategy on this? And it would be, what we need is to paint all our company cars or something. It's like,
it's interesting how people pick up ideas. This happens a lot with books too, right? People will read a book, 5 dysfunctions of a team, and then all of a sudden everything they do in the business is based on 5 dysfunctions of a team, right? And honestly, I'm not wholly opposed to that because I'm a big fan of testing things when it comes to marketing. So you have to look at what it costs, though, to do a test, right? So in your example, we're going to come back and paint all the company cars a different color. I mean, depending on how many cars the company has, this is like pretty big investment. Or, okay, maybe that's a cool idea. Maybe we could get a car wrap for one car, see if it gets more like traction, more people are going to the website, and then we can roll that out to like a wider test. But this is also one of the reasons that I love digital is that there's so many things you can test for free in the digital environment, and it just takes intention, and yeah, it takes a little bit of time, but also not an obscene amount of time. Right? I've done marketing tests for clients that took 2-4 hours to implement and run and report on. It does not have to take a lot of resources, and I don't believe it should take a lot of resources. But this kind of brings me back to why I believe the future of marketing is fractional, is because if we shift our thinking from I have to fill 8 hours of my day with work to how can I be the most productive I can for this business in the 2 hours that I have today, there's a big difference in how you show up towards the work that you're doing. And I think that is only beneficial for organizations.
So if I wanted to be a fractional CMO, what because at the moment a lot of people have been laid off. There's a lot of people that are kind of looking for fractional roles while they look for a full-time role if they ever get one.
Right.
And so what would I need to do, or if I was thinking of going down this route, what would I do?
First of all, I would say have an opinion.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people, and so marketing is my area of expertise, so I'm sure this is true in other areas as well, but it is specifically true in marketing that people just want to sell you stuff. Right? They want to sell you an email funnel, or they want to sell you podcast design, or they want to sell you graphic design, or they want to sell you a lot of marketing services have been freelanced for a long time. So people sell the thing they do. Right? It's very common. From a CMO perspective, it's not about selling a thing that you do. It's about selling you as a strategist. And so you have to have thoughts, and you have to have unique thoughts, and you have to be able to share those thoughts, and you have to be able to put together dots in ways that are interesting or insightful for people. Now, on the flip side of that, a lot of people assume that their thoughts have no value. And so there are lots of people I've met who are very intelligent, very well trained, and know a lot about what they're doing, but they don't think they do. And so therefore they don't tell the world it. If you're looking for any type of fractional role, whether that's CMO or otherwise, that's not going to work for you. Being humble, you can be humble in your individual interactions, but being so humble that you don't tell people what it is that you know is not going to help people know what you know. And so it's not going to show them that you know what they don't know. And therefore, they want you to come in and know what you know, bring it to the organization. Now, the other thing I would say is that you mentioned this earlier, Tim. You have to have a network. It's critical, right? Because you have to find opportunities. And to me, opportunities are always generated through conversation. And so networking with people, but not just like connecting with them on LinkedIn, doesn't make enough of an impact. I will tell you, I have 11,000 something followers at this point, and I don't know most of them because I can't know 11,000 people to like their core, right?
But the thing is 11,000 people probably know who you are.
This is the thing, because I am revealing enough about who I am, not just as a business owner and not just as a thought leader in marketing, but also as a human. Okay? I am a mom. I am a nerd. You're looking at the stuff behind me. I have a Harry Potter cup right now. I like to go to the.
Your birthday was you shared a picture of your wedding day because it was your wedding anniversary.
Yes, and it also has lightsabers, which says more than one thing about me.
Yeah, you had lightsabers. Yeah, and I showed it to my partner. I said, "Look at this." But that's the reaction that I went. The reaction from your post wasn't me going like or isn't this insightful or something like that. I was going, look at this, look at this, look at this.
And it's interesting because then when you look at it from like a marketing metrics type of thing, and you're looking at like that's not available on a metric, right? Like I can't see that Tim showed his partner my post, right? Like I don't know that. The thing that drives that type of thing, though, the underlying behavior is that I have built a relationship with Tim to the point that he thinks my posts are interesting and that he would want to engage with an anniversary post or a birthday post of mine instead of just being one of the many birthday posts that happen on the internet any given day.
Or when he's in Calgary, we make time to meet up and meet.
We make time. I rescheduled my networking events so we could go together. But again, that's because we've built enough of a relationship virtually, I might add, which has, I don't know, the cost of a Zoom account as the cost of
£100 a year, so that's what, 150 Canadian dollars a year.
Yeah, like these things are available, and quite honestly, even with, I always recommend if people are trying to build their network in a serious way that they have a premium or even like a sales navigator version of LinkedIn, just because it gives you more power to network the way you want. But even in just like the people you meet on LinkedIn, because they connect with you, right? Like those are opportunities. They're opportunities to have a conversation. And if we take that opportunity to have a conversation, then we have the opportunity to create an opportunity for business.
So what's the thin line? What's the thin line between having a network and hustling?
I kind of hate the phrase hustling in general because I think hustling feels bad. I think at least to me, like the concept of hustling means like I'm working really, really hard, but maybe I'm not necessarily going as fast. Like my legs are going fast, but I'm not going as fast as I think I should be going. I'm a big fan of finding a way to do things that you like to do. Okay? So I happen to love connecting with people. My favorite thing in the entire world is to have a conversation with a new person because I feel like it's an adventure every time. And sometimes that's a person at the grocery store, or sometimes that's somebody I met on LinkedIn, or somebody I met at a networking event, or I can meet people anywhere. But that's fun for me. And so it doesn't feel like a hustle because I found a way to do it that I like. Now, if you also, like I've told people before, on a Monday morning, I can send 100 connection requests in an hour. And they're like, what? Like, how is that possible? And again, it's because like I've found a way to do that where I can like find people that I'm interested in connecting with. I can easily send a connection request through practice and things like that. And I can get into conversations and it feels easy. But it's because there's like an overarching structure that you need to implement, right? Like you need to send connection requests. You're going to connect with people. You have to send, but maybe you liked, like when I started, I sent connection requests to everybody who RSVP'd for an event that I was hosting. That I still do this, but it was the only thing I did back in the day, who I didn't know. And I was like, oh, if you're interested in no pitch networking, but I don't know you, then like we're probably have something in common. So let's connect. And then like connection accept rate is like obscenely high.
Yeah.
Because
I would expect
like,
you'd be 100%, if not
right.
90, you know.
And I mean, like you can't control everybody's.
But
like,
but in terms of the
progress.
connection, just quickly, the connection requests, you're not pitching to people, are you?
No, I don't.
Because you
believe in
said
pitching.
conversation, so you're it's about a conversation, isn't it?
Yes. And okay, so let me talk about the cold pitch for a minute, because I do think, I mean, maybe it's mostly salespeople doing it, but I feel like they can trickle into marketing, and especially if you're trying to build your own business as like a fractional CMO, you might be inclined to try something like that because it might seem like it's faster, right? Like I'm not going to waste my time with a bunch of people. I'm just going to send this and be like, I'm a CMO offering CMO services. Do you need them? And so people who don't need them won't connect with me, and people who do need them will connect with me. Now, if we know the general marketing stats, which float around the internet and always change, but it's that like 3 to 5% of people within your target market are ready to buy today. Okay. So what you're doing with that strategy is you're only trying to find the 3 to 5%.
So if you send 100 connection requests, you should expect a 3% response. Whereas
I would say it's probably even lower, but
whereas you sent 100 connection requests and got 100% response.
Yes.
Which is
now
faster.
So this is the thing, right? And there will be people out there who argue that it's better to send 100 and get 3 than to send 3 and get 3, right? Now I send more than 3, but there's a balance between like, one, who are the people you're connecting to? And also, why are they connecting to you? And also, are they actually going to pay you for your value? So let's just assume you're cold pitching somebody and you get lucky. You get lucky and somebody needs your video marketing services today. How are those people going to compare you against the market? They're going to compare you on price because they have no other way to compare you. And I see this almost 100% of the time, which makes you really sad, with like web design agencies. They cold pitch right off the first email. They tell you their price, right? So then all you've done is show me you're $25 an hour. That guy's $20 an hour. You guys sound like you do the same thing. So I'll choose the $20 an hour guy because it's cheaper. Unless you build a relationship with somebody where you demonstrate to them value, they won't pay you for your value. So if you want to participate in the race to the bottom, then I wouldn't even recommend that strategy in a race for the bottom, to be honest with you. I would never recommend that strategy, but that's what you're participating in. It's a race to the bottom.
So Tracy, in the last minute, what is the difference between fractional and consulting?
Fractional, I mean, quite honestly, I don't know that there's one definition. I think people will create this for themselves. I know I've seen definitions of what other people consider fractional. Generally, it will be more of like you're treated like a full-time employee. So you have a company email address, you have maybe people that you manage directly in the organization. You have probably specific times that you're working on things, right? Like you have office hours for X amount of time if people in the organization need to reach you. I don't know that that is wholly consistent though. I know a lot of fractional marketers who operate more like consultants. I also don't think there's like a generally accepted way of being for consultants. One of the things I would recommend to people if they're interested in getting into this arena, because technically I don't even call myself a fractional CMO. I call myself an authentic marketing advisor because that is something that feels more authentic to me. But that doesn't mean that I might not operate my business the same way a fractional CMO would. It also doesn't mean that I might not take like a project over here that is more like a consulting nature because I'm an advisor. So when it comes to like creating your own business and becoming that fractional CMO or marketing consultant or whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of how do you want to serve that goes into that. How do you think this works best for your clients? Does it work best for you to have an internal email? I've had clients before where I don't have an internal email, and it's actually been better because their entire email system went down. And so they could reach me because I was outside of the email server, but they could not reach each other. So that could be a pro. There's people who like to communicate in person, right? So maybe you go into an office a couple of times a week. A consultant can do that. A fractional CMO can do that. I think it's more of like, if you're solving a problem, if your goal is to go in and solve someone's problem, how do you best think that problem gets solved? And if you need to have FaceTime, go have FaceTime. If you want to have an internal email, have an internal email. Create that as part of your business structure. This is how I do business. But I wouldn't say that there's a simple definition of what's the difference between these two.
Tracy, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you?
People can find me on LinkedIn. And as I said before, I would love to connect with people on LinkedIn and have a conversation and create opportunities.
Have a conversation, yeah.
Yes.
Tracy, thank you so much for coming on.